Hello, 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 everyone. Jennifer Bleam, Cybersecurity Sherpa here. And you all know Corey Munson with PC Matic, but you don't know who I'm getting ready to introduce in just a minute. So I'm making sure we are indeed streaming on Facebook. We are good to go. I would love to introduce you to Scott. All right, I got to pronounce it right. Augenbaum. Scott, how did I do?
I don't want to start out our relationship on a bad footing here. So,
Right.
you know, I live in the South now, so I'm just gonna smile and nod. You did perfect. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, well, we're going to work on it so you don't really have to say that next time. It really will be perfect next time. So, all right. So if you don't know Scott, you are in for a treat today. Scott does a lot of work with Corey and the team at PC Matic. And Scott is going to be one of our keynote speakers at the upcoming Ultimate IT Growth Conference. So today we're going to be talking about the human factor in cybersecurity. We're going to roast a few sacred cows, and this is going to be a fantastic conversation. So Scott, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because, of course, the lovely introduction that I queued up is now killed by my face.
Yeah, you had your chance. It's okay. But do you see the big smile on my face?
I do.
It's because I'm retired from the FBI. I've been retired for 4 years, and the number one question I get all the time is, Scott, do you miss the FBI? And unfortunately, I go like this, no. And then I stop, and everyone's like, let's get the record straight. I had an amazing career. Loved every single day of it. You know, when I retired, you know, the FBI kind of went off the tracks a little bit. And I just want to tell you, I worked in Nashville, Tennessee. I had nothing to do with it. And if I had my life to do over again, I wouldn't really change a thing except try to get in a little better shape about 28 years ago when I got to the FBI Academy. Because if anyone's here thinking about going to the FBI Academy, here's a little secret. Try to get in great shape before you get there. Don't try to get in shape while you're there. It's a little bit tough. And, you know, so why do I not miss the FBI? Because today I do what I love. I spent an amazing 30-year career, 23 years as an FBI agent, a majority of the time handling cybercrime investigations. During my career, I've touched almost 1,000 victims. These aren't things you read in a book. These aren't things you're reading about in the paper. You may have read about them in the paper. This is me looking people in the eye and really feeling their pain and their loss. And with what is going on today in the world, the information I want to share with everyone is so important. So thank you, Jennifer, for having me here. And thank you, Corey, for bringing me into your show here today. And I promise I'm both going to let you guys get a word in edgewise here.
I probably could figure out a way to mute you if I needed to, but I don't think that I want to cross you. I have a feeling that you know a few tricks and that I should not get on your bad side. So I'm going to do my best.
Look at me. I'm just a sweet, sensitive guy from New York. Come on.
They make those sweet, sensitive guys in New York. I didn't know that.
When my kids used to go, my dad could kill your dad. Well, never mind. I don't want to make jokes like that. It's inappropriate. Hey, nobody's watching, right? Okay.
Yeah, well, I don't know, edit that out somehow before it goes live.
Sure.
I love it. Okay, so you said a couple of things as you were introducing yourself. The first thing is, you know, you've been in the cybersecurity world for 25-ish years. I mean, FBI for 30. Most people don't even realize that cybercrime has been around that long. So when you look back to where things started versus where they are today, I'm going to give you a two-part question. Like, what are some things that have changed significantly, and what are some things that have not changed at all?
Okay, no, that's a great question. And, you know, if you would have told me 34 years ago I'd be doing this, I wrote a book about it. This is my passion. This is what I teach people about it. But, you know, if you go back in time in 95, if you ask me when I started, I'm a 27-year-old FBI agent in Syracuse, New York. What is the role? Bad people do bad things to good people. I work with state and local cops. We put bad guys in jail. What a fun and exciting job for a 27-year-old kid from Brooklyn, New York. Unbelievable. My life is like a video game and a mystery novel. I get sucked into the world of cybercrime probably 97 or 98 because Presidential Directive 63 creates the National Infrastructure Protection Center in 1998 for the federal government to be involved in the protection of critical infrastructure. This is before cybercrime exists. Because, and back when I'm in here in 98, we're chasing thrill seekers, we're chasing amateurs, we are chasing kids trying to get into the Pentagon.
So it is kind of that kid in the hoodie,
oh,
you know, in mom's
absolutely.
basement.
And let me tell you, I remember getting a call from I remember getting a call in 1999 from some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. telling me that there's a kid who lives in almost by the Canadian border trying to gain illegal access to the Cape Kennedy Space Center. They call me up on a Sunday afternoon and they tell me I need to go up there. And here's my instructions: neutralize the threat. What does that mean to you?
By any means necessary, I suppose.
Well, I kind of yelled at the kid and he never did it again. but that's what we were dealing with. Now we go back, because I want to give you the timeline, because people go, how did it get so bad? 1998, FBI, US government involved critical infrastructure. That's my job. 50% of the time, I'm supposed to be handling infrastructure protection. The FBI, after the events of September 11th, the FBI changes quite dramatically. Counterterrorism, number one priority. Counterintelligence, number two. Cybercrime, number three. I go to Washington, D.C. in 2003 to become the first cybercrime supervisor in the Nashville area. That's in 2007. But when I make the jump into cybercrime, all my friends make fun of me. And they say to me, here's one of the quotes. In 2003, I am told by 2007, the FBI will arrest every teenage hacker. Let me ask you, how's that working out for us? It's really not.
Well, maybe the teenage hackers, but not the nation states and the secondary nation states.
Absolutely. So we get it. We get here. I just want to lay the background for you as we tell this story, as we get to today, because the question I get is, oh my God, the Russians are attacking us. 2008, after Brian Krebs, who was a young reporter for the Washington Post, breaks a story that I live called the Russian Business Network. Bulletproof Hosting in St. Petersburg, Russia, is the home of Russian organized crime that is making financial attacks against the United States. In 2008, I am tasked to go out and to provide education to the public in 2008. And here I am at the Tennessee Bankers Association Strategic Bank Technology Conference, telling the community that Russian organized crime is the number one threat to the financial services sector. And what do you think their response is to me in 2008?
Complete disbelief.
Like, that boy from New York is crazy. You know, that's what they end up saying at that point in time. Now, remember, as we look at what's happening today in the world, 2008, Russian organized crime, number one threat to the financial services sector. Russian organized crime is tied to the Russian government. We have agents in Moscow at the time when we had good relationships with Russia, and we couldn't prosecute anyone. They would not cooperate. So how do you think that it plays into what's happening today? Now we fast forward a little bit, and in 2000, I think the game changer in cyber is 2013 to 2015, a lot of serious attacks. I'm dealing with 1,000 victimizations during my time. And all of a sudden, the FBI puts out guidance in 2015 to this new cyber attack that nobody's ever heard of, okay? They give me everything that I need, and it's a threat that's called ransomware. In 2015, I am trying to get meetings with every state entity in the state of Tennessee, every large organization, because I'm going, hey guys, we have information for you on this. and maybe 3 or 4 companies out of 50 take me up on my offer.
Mm.
So now when we go out and when I speak at organizations today and they go, Scott, do you have anything new to tell me? I go, no. I go, I'm still doing the same talk I did in 2010, except today I use terms known as ransomware a lot more, and I use the business email compromise.
All right, so hold that thought for 1 second, because your message really hasn't changed, other than some of the terminology has changed. So hold that for a second. Corey, I want to go to something that you and I were discussing in the green room, which is the fact that the end user, the small businesses, are still not educated. Like this whole concept that we just talked about, where we've had this evolution from the kid in the hoodie to it's now Russia, China, whatever, every country under the sun. The small business owners aren't aware of that, and the MSPs aren't always great at educating their users and their prospects on that fact. So are you still seeing that MSPs are struggling to articulate the need for cybersecurity, how things have changed, why business as usual is not a tenable idea?
No doubt, continuing to see it, and it's one of the reasons we really developed our relationship with Scott. Is number one, if you want to go to central casting for the FBI guy walking through the door to help you, it's going to be Scott, and people in Orlando will get to see him in person, and he's a great guy. But two, on a very frequent basis, we're working with MSP partners and consulting with our MSP partners that still struggle to explain the need to cybersecurity to their end users. And unfortunately, they're still approaching these end users with a vivid description of all the technology that they're going to put in place to protect them. When in reality, we're talking about small business owners in many cases that simply want to be able to open the door on Monday and make payroll and be able to turn the lights on a daily basis. And until we can get better as an MSP community collectively, this is a vendor responsibility and the MSPs themselves, until we can get better at communicating that, we're going to be stuck in this old methodology of selling on fear, overstating the problem, overstating the need for certain technologies, and maybe ignoring some just simple best practices that could be put in place to develop more of, like Scott's going to talk about, a cyber mindset. And that's one of the reasons we've really aligned with Scott's messaging, is that's exactly what we want our MSP partners to understand, and the end users. Or there's some simple, straightforward things that can be done that unfortunately are not being done. But man, there's no shortage of money being spent and thrown at the problem to some degree.
So it's interesting, because when I'm talking to MSPs that are in the process of building out their stack, the pieces in the stack are, generally speaking, technology, even security policies that maybe that's not necessarily a tool, but it's tools. We're cobbling together usually a dozen or more tools to try to solve the problem. Scott, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a softball. You take a completely different approach, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here, but explain your approach, because it's not tool centric. It's almost not tool focused at all, is it?
No, it's not. And there's a couple of things at play here, and that's why the message is so perfectly aligned. Because I want to take you through a couple of steps here that really kind of play into what my life looked like. I've dealt with a lot of really, really large breaches during my career. I'm not being honest. Didn't lose a lot of sleep. And it's not because I'm from New York, Jennifer. It's not because I'm callous. It's because I sat with the small businesses. I sat with the homeowners. I've seen people lose every single thing in their lives. And there were these reoccurring themes that have happened all the time. So I didn't wake up one day and I went like this, hey, you just need a cyber secure mindset. That's not it. It's just like I'm living this, and I don't realize it until about 15 years later, because here I am. There's something that I call the 4 truths about cybersecurity. And I want both of you. I'm going to, after I do each of them, let's stop and let's kind of dissect each piece. The first truth about cybersecurity is none of my victims ever expected to be a victim. They did not think that they had anything worth stealing. I'm a small business. I'm a religious organization. And I love to use my experience in Nashville in healthcare. Nashville, Tennessee, 550 healthcare companies. I would go talk to small organizations and I would ask them, are they concerned? And they would go, no, we're a small business. What's your, Jennifer, what's your definition of a small business?
I think
Revenue.
it is 5,000 and under, 10,000 and under.
Okay, what would your reaction be if you're sitting here and you're explaining to an organization that they need to take the threat seriously and they go, no, we're a small business. We only earn $300 million a year.
I believe it. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So to me, they don't think, and then they go, hey, we got a firewall. Hey, we got antivirus. Hey, we have an MSP keeping us safe. I'm like, okay. But so then I'd go talk to larger companies. I talk to companies publicly traded on the NASDAQ, and they'd say, no, we're not worried because we have companies on the New York Stock Exchange. I talked to companies on the New York Stock Exchange. Best response was, we're only a $5.8 billion company.
Wow.
And we just bought XYZ. So it played over, and then it's like there's a force field. We're in Nashville. Who would target us in Nashville? So that's the first truth. Nobody expected to be a victim. They didn't think they had anything that was worth stealing, and they all thought because they had tools in place that that would have saved them. The second truth about cybersecurity is when the bad guys steal your stuff. And let's think about it. What is your stuff? And this is a really great question that I go into organizations because they don't even know what they need to protect. I mean, they have all these different cloud-based platforms where their stuff is. There's no such thing as having a perimeter anymore. Their data is all over the place. So, and this is a very, very difficult thing. When the bad guys come into your world, the bad guys steal your stuff, they impact you with ransomware. You contact law enforcement. We're not coming with a magic wand to fix the problem. Second, so that's the second truth. Third truth about cybersecurity is the chances of putting the cyber criminals in jail are even harder than getting your stuff back because the cyber criminals are located overseas. They're in China, they're in Russia, they're in West Africa. And all of a sudden, you know, when I was a young FBI agent, the harder I worked, the more bad people I put in jail. Now as a cyber agent, every day was the same thing, and I hit a wall, Jennifer. I just came to a crash 3 years before I was going to retire because I'm dealing with victimizations, and I'll never forget a small business, and this was a $100 million business, and the cyber criminals were able to install a piece of malware on their network, which stole the keystroke, which installed a keystroke logger that entered in, got access to their bank account, and was able to wire almost $1.7 million out of the organization. And they came to me and they're like, what do you mean you can't get our money back? What do you mean you can't put the bad guys in jail? And that's when I just wanted to give in. So let's go through this. And I'm going to throw it back at you because I'm going to ask you a feelings question. I love feelings questions.
Hold on. Did you do all four?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. I don't want to steal your thunder. I'm taking notes in the live. And so I've got truth number one, no one expects to be a victim. Truth number two, if the bad guys get your stuff, there's no magic wand to get it back. And truth number three, the chances of prosecution are slim.
But now's the time when we go over and let's also throw in together. So I gave you those three truths, and now I want to tack on a little bit more info. The cybercrime problem keeps going up year after year. According to Cybersecurity Ventures, it goes from a $3 trillion problem in 2015 to a $6 trillion problem. It's going to go up to a $10 trillion problem by 2025. So for our listeners, what's the trend? Is it getting worse?
It's getting worse, unless you're a cyber criminal, and then it's like
Oh, yeah.
the best thing ever.
Okay. But the amount of money we're going to spend on products and services is going to go up continually. Now, a lot of companies going public, a lot of companies getting Series A and B funding, a lot of people making a lot of money, a lot of small businesses getting destroyed. So what does it mean if we keep spending money and the problem keeps getting worse? What does that mean? Corey, what does that mean to you?
It means that we've got a cyber bubble that's about to burst.
Yeah.
We can have that as a separate conversation, but this
No, absolutely.
this is the heart of the problem. What are we spending the money on?
Yeah.
We're not
So
gaining,
Jennifer,
we're not getting any traction.
all right.
right?
So
I mean,
Jennifer, here
it-
now, you know, you're the one who's dripping a little more with empathy than I am. I try to have empathy here, but how does that make you feel when I tell you that your people are going to continue to spend money, the problem's going to get worse, bad guys steal your stuff, you're not getting it back, and nobody goes to jail. So when I go like this, and I'm speaking at a conference, how do you think I make people feel?
Squirmy, uncomfortable, maybe even a little like
Just say it.
useless. I mean, like frustrated. You're rearranging deck chairs
I
on the
would
Titanic.
get people angry at me,
Okay.
and they would go like this. Oh, Mr. Big Shot, you live in a nice pension and everyone's getting destroyed. How do you feel? And I go, that's when I got to the fourth truth about cybersecurity, and it hit me that I realized that almost 90% of what I dealt with easily could have been prevented if the end users were only armed with a couple of key pieces of strategies. Now, am I oversimplifying the problem? Absolutely. But if 90% of what I dealt with could have easily been prevented, here's the question that I asked the community: how come you're just not doing this stuff? And I didn't invent this. It's not, there's no secret sauce. It's not like, hey guys, look at what I did. It's like, look, there were patterns. Life is about patterns. And I didn't realize it, that I'm almost a scientist when I'm out there making observations. So when people say, hey, we got this great subject matter expert, Scott Augenbaum, speaking, I go, I'm not a subject matter expert. I'm the guy who's felt useless I'm the guy who felt useless most of my career because I couldn't help people. And then I took these patterns and I said, hey, wait a second. If 90% of these things easily could have been prevented, so why don't we do this? And then every time I sit down and I contact my FBI buddies now, because people go, look, Scott, the day you retire from the FBI, you're not going to get access to information. So when I go out with my FBI buddies and I go, hey, anything new? They go, not really. It's just a lot more of the same stuff. So that's what I'm so excited to be able to share with your partners, to be able to talk about these methodologies that are easy, they're simple, and it's just putting it into, and I created a really simple, easy framework to follow that they could use, that they can engage with their partners, because we're all commodities. I hate to say it, I'm a commodity, everyone's a commodity. But if you can provide your people with value, so this is what I tell individuals. Scott, what do you do today? I teach individuals and organizations how to reduce their chances of becoming the next cybercrime victim. And there's 100 million other people who do the same thing. But I teach people how to do it without purchasing additional products or services or having a PhD in computer science. Am I saying we don't buy the products? Of course not. We need products.
So let's park there though, because if your message seems to be you don't need the products. So then it's like,
we don't need the products. I said you need to. It's like, here's the thing. It's like going out and losing weight and going like this. This year, I'm going to buy the Peloton. Next year, I'm going to buy the rowing machine. And all Scott's saying is, okay, why don't we, maybe give up gluten and maybe drink 8 glasses of water and maybe not drink. But I want the Peloton. The Peloton's so cool. Well, before you do the Peloton, why don't you commit yourself to doing these simple, basic things for free? Different story.
So that, okay, so then what I'm seeing is we've got this growing trend. It's not necessarily being, the trend isn't being supported by the spend, but the spend is equal to the growing trend, and you're shifting it gradually. You're saying, okay, what if, okay, humans are
What's your
humans.
strategy? That's what I'm asking people. What's your strategy? And you know
Yeah.
what they tell me? I bought this the other day. I go,
Right.
it's great. I got insurance. I go, great. But let me ask you, holistically, who's talking about putting all of these things together? So let's just think for a second and follow me on this one. Okay. An alien crashes at one of the big conferences in Las Vegas, and it's filled with 200 vendors representing 200 different vendor companies. And this alien says, I was just offered a job of this new $3 billion company. I got a $100 million budget on information security. I need to start somewhere. Jennifer, out of those 150 vendors, who's going to be going like this? Start with me.
150.
Okay, so what do you do? So what do you do? Where do you go? So what do you do? What do you start?
NIST framework. I don't know. You pick
I
a
don't, I've never met
framework,
anyone who read the entire NIST framework. I
Yeah.
fell asleep after, and I studied this. This is why all I'm trying to say is, look, why don't we do these things first? Because
so,
these were
so
the
it's
elements.
interesting. I'm a super visual person. So as you're talking, this is what I've drawn, right? Is like,
Looks like
okay,
my
here,
apartment complex in New York City.
all right, so the spend is just going, or the trend is just going up and up and up, and the spend is matching that. And so what you're saying is here and no further. Like we are drawing a line in the sand, and we're saying, don't spend any more on cybersecurity until.
Well, people, I don't want people to think that, because you still need firewalls, but everything has its place. You
Right.
still, and this is why I partner with PC Matic. I don't partner with companies, because you can listen to me all day long. If any of your listeners want to take me on a European cruise for 2 weeks, I'll go with you. I will not stop talking. I'll teach you everything that I know, which I'll give you the handout, and you can do it all yourself. But if you don't have like an antivirus with application whitelisting, you need that. You know what I'm saying? But and that's why we have such a great partnership, because there's very few companies on the market today that understand that, okay, just having an antivirus with application whitelisting is not going to stop your CFO from getting a telephone call appearing to be someone else telling you to send a check here.
Right.
Or not telling you to have separate passwords for mission critical platforms, or to not tell you if you don't put two-factor authentication on all your different platforms, this cybercrime. So what I'm trying to get people to do is understand the why before that. And I get calls all the time that people are throwing money at me going, hey, can you go out, Scott, and scare people so maybe our clients will buy our stuff? And I go, I don't even know what your stuff does.
So, okay, so it's really a both and, right? So you put your cybersecurity solutions in place, but you also future cast and say, okay, next year I will have to spend more money if I don't change my strategy. And so you're saying tools are great, but address the human factor as well.
Absolutely. And as I sit here in the world of chief information security officers, I have friends who are chief information security officers at some of the largest companies in the United States. They are so much more technical than I am. You know what they bring me into for? Because people don't listen to them. Because I come into a place where I'm not selling a solution. I'm trying, if I can get the C-level executives of a company to understand why they why they need to realize email is the #1 attack vector for the distribution of ransomware and every other bad things, and so is text messages, and why if you have the same password for multiple platforms, you're going to get victimized because they're all on the dark web. And then even if you do that, why you need two-factor authentication. It's those principles that and when I retired from the FBI, everyone like this. Scott, look at your book. Look how easy this is. Everybody knows this. No, they don't, because you need stories to change people's thing. And when people don't want to do what I tell them to do, I go, I don't really care, because all of my friends with the FBI have retired and they're all making a fortune in intrusion response. So I tell people, like, look, you can do what I tell you to do for free, or if you have a problem, give me a call. I got 5 companies with retired FBI agents. I'll put you in touch with someone good who won't rip you off as bad as the other companies will. And they'll take 10% off your 5, 6, or 7-figure retainer. And then they'll kick me back 25% as a finder's fee. I can't say kickback, I'm retired FBI. Or just do my strategies, that's it. That's why I'm living a passion project life.
Well, and so what I love about your message is that it is so rooted in stories and storytelling, and stories are super powerful in sales and in marketing. So Corey, let me ask you, because you have formed this strategic partnership with Scott, because it dovetails so nicely with your message. Is there a part of you that's afraid that, oh, if all of my MSP's clients adopt Scott's methodologies, they won't need PC Matic?
Really, no. I mean, from the get-go, the way we've seen Scott's message is it's not an either or proposition. I think what he's advocating for is why would we ignore best practices? Why would we ignore the human element of all of this and just simply direct all the money towards high-end solutions that maybe most MSPs or even IT administrators don't have the time or resources to even manage or deploy correctly. And this isn't even a message that's unique to Scott. I mean, if we listen to Jen Easterly at CISA, she's out in front talking about how 90% of this stuff could be prevented through multi-factor authentication.
Mm-hmm.
And what, conservatively, we think maybe 40-50% of people have multi-factor deployed where it should be. And that might be high. So we as a provider of application whitelisting tools don't see this as counter to what Scott's saying. We're seeing it as it's complementary. It's bringing to mind the fact that there are best practices on the that are more low-hanging fruit, and couple that with the human factor, you're further along than potentially investing in higher end solutions that there are definitely a place for, and there are edge cases that are very sophisticated that are going to require significant investment. It's not pretending that that's not the case. It's simply looking for maybe a more efficient and economical way to address some of this stuff.
So Scott, I want to pose this question to you. Corey and I have bantered this around quite a bit. And so there is this trend inside of the MSP world that, well, I recommend multi-factor authentication, or I recommend a password manager to my clients, but they have said no, or they say, oh, maybe next quarter. Okay, thank you, we hear you. And then they move on with their world, and they don't actually implement some of these best practices. What is your gut reaction to that? I'll throw a feeling question at you. And then how would you handle that? Like, what would your advice be to the MSPs?
Well, I think now if people do business with people they know, like, and trust, and when you serve your clients within their best interest, they always come back to you. It's just that simple. And so many organizations fit that thing where, and I get it, we're a sales-driven organization. You know, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to sell this product. And, you know, I would have these debates with Microsoft all the time. They're like, well, you know, if the client doesn't want it, then we're just going to, you know, make our sale and walk away. But if all my victims didn't have it, don't you have an obligation to sit here and to really look for them and look out for their best interest at heart? And that's what differentiates what I do. And that's why, to me, you know, having my pension and giving me an opportunity to go out and take a risk and have this message, because at the end of the day, and even, you know, I'm building training because there's a void in the marketplace right now. There's nobody really looking out for the small businesses, the nonprofit organizations. I've sat through, when I was with the FBI, I sat through cybersecurity training, which was awful. And I'm trying to use storytelling and to sit here and to put you into the victim, because what I'm trying to do is change your mindset, to change you as a person, to get you to realize that at the end of the day, if you don't do what I tell you to do, what you can do for free, your elderly parents are going to lose their life savings, and the bad guys are going to hurt your children. And if you're okay with that, sounds great to me. And I hate to be sarcastic, but I'm going to give you the steps that would have prevented that from happening in the first place. And hopefully I can change behavior. That's all I'm trying to do.
And what I think is interesting, you know, we've touched on the whole know, like, and trust thing. That's part of what has me so excited about this message for the MSPs that are going to be at the show, because we're going to give you stories and narratives that you can then take back, regurgitate inside of your webinars, your blogs, your newsletters. And it's essentially, you don't have to pay me a dime. You just have to follow these simple rules.
No, absolutely.
But you're probably not. I mean, we all know you're human. You're not going to turn on multi-factor. You are going to reuse passwords, or maybe you, Mr. Owner of the company, will listen, but your team won't. And so because of that, you need what I offer. And now you are providing education first, sell second. So
and here's the whole thing, the way I've created this is just, here it is. I've created a very simple, easy to follow thing. If you're a do-it-yourself person, go do it yourself.
Yes.
If you want to go to Barnes and Noble and sit there and read my book, go or buy or steal it or buy it. Don't tell my publisher. Go do it if you want. It's not like saying, hey guys, here's the top 3 things that you need to do. Go buy 7 more. If I can go out there and I could help people, and today I get hired all the time by large organizations to go train their employees. I've never advertised once. People just call me. And I love what I do, and I'm very passionate, and I'm going to bring that passion down to Orlando and have a really great time with you. And I do appreciate what you're doing in my partnership with Corey, and I can't wait to meet you in person.
Likewise, I am so looking forward to it. Corey, thank you for making the connection. This is going to be an amazing show. So for everyone watching, if you don't have your ticket yet, go to mspsalesrevolution.com/ultimate and get your ticket to the Ultimate IT Growth Conference. Corey, you're going to be there. Scott, you're going to be there. I'll be there.
And Corey can't hear us now, right? Because maybe I'll get Corey to buy some of my books and we'll sign some books, right? See if you can make that happen and stuff.
Little throwdown. We might be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
I
See
love
if
it.
Sorry about that, Corey. Oh my God, how embarrassing.
So if you leave Orlando with one of Scott's books and Jennifer's best-selling book, what a dynamic combination of reading material to leave Orlando with, right?
Yeah, totally agree. Good stuff, man. I appreciate you both. We've got Corey here to kind of balance out the sarcasm of Scott and Jennifer. So thank you for doing that for us.
I'm sarcastic. You're not.
I am totally sarcastic.
I didn't see it. You need to up your game, young lady.
All right. I'll be careful what you ask for. I can absolutely up my sarcasm game with 0 effort.
Oh, okay. This is great. I loved it. I am so excited. This is going to be great.
Likewise. You guys have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Take care.
Thank you.